Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by the aftermath, the glory, the glow of the Warriors winning the NBA Finals. I'm still in a state of just calm and peace and ecstatic happiness. It's great to be able to go 5 championships rings, 7 appearances in 7 years. It's a glorious time. Raymond, before we get started, why don't you let them know where they can find us?
You can like us on Facebook.com/TheGoldCast. You can also follow us on Twitter @TheGoldCast_. You can also subscribe to us via iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher, all under the same moniker of The Goldcast. We're also on Instagram, also under the same tag or handle as @TheGoldCast. And so be sure to subscribe if you do iTunes, YouTube, or Stitcher. That way you'll get notifications when we go live with our new episodes. And that's the best way to stay in touch.
Boom, there it is. All right, so we are going to talk NBA draft. We've got a brand new guest co-host, Jordan Shappell. He's going to be joining us for the first time ever. Chicago native, diehard Warriors fan. Diehard Cubs fan too, but we don't hold it against him. That's all right. And we're going to get it started. Here we go. GoldCast. Let's get busy.
San Francisco, are you ready?
This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom! And we are the voice of the Bay. And coming in for his first time ever, fellow guest co-host, actor, fellow writer, amazing acting coach, Jordan Shappell. Welcome to the GoldCast.
Hello, I'm welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Sweet. So we're going to talk, guys, NBA draft. It has been crazy. I know, Raymond, you have not been on since the Warriors won. You were noticeably absent. So, Raymond, I know you've been dying. I still feel like, even though it is July and it's been several weeks, I still feel like we have earned the right to still bask in the glory and the glow and the aftermath of just an incredible NBA Finals series. The Warriors dominate in 5 games. Destruction to LeBron James. Once again, we defeat the evil Eastern Empire. And Ray, I know you wanted to say some words, so I'll hand it off to you.
Well, that pass actually lasts all the way up until the next championship. So that's the beauty of winning. You just get to keep on celebrating until the very next finals, which the Warriors obviously have barring any, serious injury, have a really good shot of going back, for a 4th straight trip, which would be amazing. But mainly just because I called the game in 5. I said they would win in 5, and I said that I even said that they would not lose game 3. And so everything happened according to plan. I would have loved to see a 16-game sweep, but that's all right. A win's a win. So I think it's been great, and it's awesome to see KD get a championship, and the way he played throughout the entire finals was just absolutely insane. Klay Thompson was a defensive monster, shutting down all 3 of their all-stars various times throughout the entire series. It's been a really fun ride. So it's been great. There's nothing better than winning, even though I didn't contribute at all.
You did. You contributed with your eyeballs and your passion and your heart.
Yes.
Jordan, any thoughts on the NBA Finals and the end of it? I thought it was a great ride.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was amazing. I mean, my 2 thoughts, my biggest takeaway is Steph almost averaging the triple-double. I mean, just to see him, I know he was kind of hurt last year, but I mean, he didn't underperform, I would say, in the previous 2 finals, but just watching him kind of like shed those demons a little bit and just get to work, and watching him hit that big kind of step back 3 over Kyrie in the corner in that game 5, that to me was just a really great moment to watch for the $200 million man.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
His rebounding was crazy.
Yeah, he had what did he average? 7 rebounds, 8 rebounds, something like that?
Yeah.
Nice.
For his size, he's the smallest guy on the court.
Well, and then Steve Kerr, he kind of tasked him with it. That was kind of the task that he handed to him and said, this is what we're really going to need from you in order to really dominate and make this happen in the finals. And I really need you to step up to the plate and contribute in this direction. And Steph did it. My favorite part about Steph Curry always, and we talked about this before on the GoldCast, my favorite part about Steph Curry is that he has willed himself to this level. Unlike, the Kobe Bryants of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the LeBron James of the world, like all those guys were slated from high school. They were kind of already deemed and crowned as future gods and Hall of Famers and champions of the NBA. And Steph was always really talented, but there was a lot of question about his health and his ankles early in his career. And it's just amazing to see Steph to me, he kind of represents the everyman. He represents like the ultimate American dream. This guy was not the best. He wasn't the greatest. He wasn't deemed out of high school to be, this dominant, unstoppable force. But through hard work, he has willed himself to a good player, to a great player, to a Hall of Famer. And I think it's kind of incredible to see. And it's really inspiring for me to see as someone who's not only a big sports fan, but also an actor and an artist. It's amazing to see someone like Steph will himself through hard work and confidence and belief and time, will himself to this level where now he's just this incredible player, and will go down as arguably probably the greatest shooter of all time. And it's just amazing because he wasn't there. That's not where he started, but it's where he ended up. And for me, I look at him and I go, well, if he can do that, anyone can do anything. And I think for me that's the most inspiring part of Steph's story, is that if he can do that, you can do anything as well. And I don't know. I think he embodies the American dream in terms of his success and the trajectory that he's taken. And it's really, really inspiring.
The proof is in the pudding, man. It took him 6 years to become an all-star. You know what I mean? So you keep working at it, it'll happen. You just gotta stay with it.
Yeah, I mean, and also too, like the injury thing, I think is so key. As a Chicago boy and watching Derrick Rose decimate his whole life and career in the worst, saddest way. I mean, you talk about his ankle injuries, and I think the year that he really came out, there's a great article on ESPN about like the whole thing. I know this sounds so dumb, but they're like, his ankles are screwed up because his hips need to be stronger. And like watching him like take the time to redo his body. And there was some funny article about how like he can basically squat more than almost anybody on the team. And I don't know if that's true or if I'm misremembering that, but like the kid like was like, okay, I got to totally train differently. And Derrick Rose broke all of his knees off because the kid didn't want to stretch. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, that to me is also a part of that like discipline, not doing the flashy stuff and just like getting to work.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. There was a little bit of like with Derrick Rose. I love Derrick Rose, and I think Derrick Rose is easily one of the greatest what-if stories of the last decade, especially for Chicago. But I think Derrick Rose had a little bit of that RG3 stubbornness about him. You know what I mean? Like, RG3, how many times did you hear people telling RG3, slide, quit trying to take hits. You're not big enough. You're not physically built to deal with the defensive onslaught of NFL players, and he wouldn't do it, and he just sustained injury after injury after injury, and really kind of always goes back to his own reckless, stubborn play. And I think there's a little bit of that going on with Derrick Rose, a little bit of that stubbornness where I think he thought that possibly his talent would override his physical inabilities, and it just doesn't really work that way.
Yeah,
Michael Vick is the same way in terms of like his preparation. He had very poor preparation, and as a result, thought his talents could take him the distance, but it just didn't work out that way for Vick. Vick had a good career. He lasted in the NFL long, but he never fully realized the potential that everyone saw in him, and that's because he just thought he could get by on talent alone.
It's true. Talent starts it, but at the end, it's always going to be the work. The difference between those who succeed and who don't, it always comes down to the work. Talent is, especially at that level, when you're dealing with the professional sports level, talent is no longer a barometer. Everyone's talented. Everyone's the greatest athlete from wherever they came from. Now, the difference is in the practice, in the discipline, in the field, in the work. Those who put in the most work will succeed, and those who don't will fail, or they will not reach their true potential. At the end of the day, talent at that level is not a barometer. It's the standard. It's the basic foundation.
Right.
The work you put in, that becomes the barometer.
Mm-hmm. And I know, I mean, hey, I know this is the GoldCast, but to that credit, like LeBron was given the throne when he was in high school, but that man puts in hours of work on his body and his game. And, I remember back in the Miami days when he was like, all right, I got to work on a post-up game. And he became one of the most efficient players. It had one of the most efficient seasons ever. And it's like, I think that, to further your point, it's like, even if you are crown the king and you have all these outs to say like, oh no, I can rest. I'm good. I am the best. And to watch certain players, I think that's why the NBA has just become easily one of the most popular sports in the world right now, and is like the most freaking fun thing to watch because the talent level is nuts.
I agree. And the NBA, the thing I really like about the NBA, for instance, I'm a diehard NFL guy, 49ers all day. The GoldCast was originally built and founded on, we were formerly called the 49ers GoldCast originally when we were first created. We were founded on just 49er football. And I love the NFL, but the thing that I really like about the NBA, I feel like the players are more well-behaved. I feel like the commissioner genuinely cares about the sport and the players and is looking out for not only the best interest of the league, but the best interest of the players as well. I don't know if an owner had said the racist remarks that Sterling did for the Clippers. If I can't say with 1,000% confidence that Roger Goodell would have been like, "You're out, you're done, that's over." I can't say with 100% confidence Goodell would do. I don't really trust Goodell, and I don't think anyone trusts Goodell. You can tell by the drafts, by the boos at every draft that we have. But the NBA, not only is it a fun, exciting sport, it's very quick, it's very fast-paced, but the players conduct themselves in a manner that is far more respectful. We don't have nearly as many scandals in the NBA as we do in the NFL. And I feel like there's a lot of, what's the word? Everyone's looking in the same direction. And there's a lot of passion and care and pride that's taken into how the sport is represented. And I think that says a lot about the NBA, and I think that's part of what makes it so exciting as a fan.
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up, I think.
All right, so let's
couldn't have said it better myself.
The only scandals we had are Draymond Snapchat pictures in Rio or wherever they were.
Yeah, and then the occasional nut punch.
Yeah, that's fine. That happens.
Yeah, sometimes you got to punch a guy in the nuts.
Yeah, if he steps over you like that, you can't let a man step over you. As so a year ago, but yeah.
Oh no, I'm still mad. I'm still really salty about that one. I've said on the GoldCast before, LeBron James's 3 highlight reels from his entire NBA Finals career is the block against Iguodala in Game 7 last year, then pushing Draymond Green down, and then Ray Allen's 3. Those are like the 3 biggest plays he's had in all Hot take.
No, that's pretty good.
I'm not wrong.
That is true. That is accurate. Those things did happen.
Those things did happen, and I feel like those are the 3 things that are talked about more often than any other thing he's done in the finals, are those 3 things over and over and over again.
Can this be like a shady, I mean, I know you're the host, but can this be like a shady segue into the fact that LeBron is the winner of free agency right now? Can we like talk about how, this is my hot take, LeBron's the winner of free agency?
How? Break it down.
Because the East is terrible. You just signed Serge Ibaka. The Raptors signed Serge Ibaka. They got Kyle Lowry, and it's like I saw some article on ESPN that was like, will the Raptors take back the East or take the East for the first time? It's like no. And Gordon Hayward, we have no idea where he's going to go, and even if he gets on the Celtics, so it's like you got rid of Paul George, you got rid of Jimmy Butler, you got Dwight Howard in your conference. Like congrats. It got worse. Like LeBron's just sitting there going like, of course I don't have to recruit free agents, because I can walk back into the finals with ease again. He'll play 55 games and it won't matter during the season.
You're absolutely right. There's no challenge in the East. I was seeing there was another ESPN article that was showing the most wins, but it was like per player. I don't remember exactly how they came up with the stat, but it showed only 3 for the East, and it was like 15 on the West. The West is so stacked. Super stacked.
Yeah, Oklahoma is going to be, I think that was the one team that kind of intrigued me when they made the move for Paul George, because that's kind of a big piece that they're missing on their team. I think he fills a lot of voids because he can play both ways. He can score, and he can defend. So they need that bad.
Okay, so let's get into that. So let's talk about the 2 teams in the West that really bulked up and decided we're still going to go. We're going to go head straight for the Warriors, and that's the Houston Rockets and obviously OKC, the Thunder. So we've got what do you think about, Ray? Let's start because I know you want to talk about Chris Paul. So let's talk about Chris Paul. Chris Paul to the Rockets. What does that do? Obviously, Clippers are gone. Clippers is over. They're dead.
I think the Clippers are definitely dead in terms of, they were never alive in terms of playoff contention. They could not get past the second round to save their lives. And signing Blake Griffin to a 5-year deal just kind of ensures that they'll probably maybe be as good as one round, a one and done. But Houston getting Chris Paul is a big boost for them because basically you get the best defending point guard in the NBA who still can play at a really high level. He can also score, and he can distribute and doesn't turn over the same way that James Harden does. So that frees up Harden to kind of focus on what he does best, which is just scoring and getting to the free throw line. And so I think that's a really good move because you get a true distributor. Even though Harden had a really good year playing the point guard role, Chris Paul's obviously far superior at it than him, and he's been doing it a lot longer, and he can defend. So you're going to mitigate. That means their turnovers are probably going to go down next season, and their defense is going to get better. But I still don't think that I've seen what Steph Curry can do to Chris Paul, and it doesn't make any difference whatsoever because that means that Curry's going to defend Chris Paul, and he not only defends him well, but also Chris Paul can't defend Steph Curry, which means that Klay Thompson's probably going to be on James Harden as he's been in the past, and we don't know if Klay Thompson is just as good as Draymond Green on defense. So I just think it just doesn't do much. It makes them more competitive. They are a better team. They do pose a bigger threat, but I still don't think they're strong enough to get past the Warriors.
Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. The Chris Paul move, I'm with you. I think the Clippers are done. I would go so far as to say I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because you look at some of these other teams, or if they do, maybe the bottom because Redick is gone, and I just think that they, unless they sign someone big, which it doesn't really feel like there's anybody else out there, I think the Clippers are done. And then as far as the Rockets, my only thing is both of those dudes, they need the ball. I think part of the reason, and D'Antoni came out and said it, is they're giving James Harden the ball more. I mean, he had one of the highest usage rates behind like Russell Westbrook. And so I think there's just a little bit of like, who's going to have the ball when it gets to crunch time, what's going to happen. And also, like, Chris Paul's kind of a dick. I don't know if I can say that.
He has a reputation for that.
Yes. And James Harden is kind of a softie at times. And so, I think that there'll be bumps and bruises along the way. I think that they'll be fine in the end. I actually think with the addition of PJ Tucker and, some of these other things, D'Antoni, defensively, he kind of gets a little bit more shored up. So I actually think unless the Spurs make a move, I think the Rockets are number 2 in the West. Like, I think that they're going to be great. I just think it's going to be a really weird negotiation, and there may be some of those like KD, Steph Curry moments at the end of the Christmas game where you're like, who gets the ball? And we got to figure out, how one person can really be themselves in a system in which 2 players thrive when the ball's in their hands. So I just think that'll be a weird negotiation, but I still think that they'll probably be 2nd or 3rd in the West.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think
they definitely stay within the top 3.
Yeah,
for sure. I think now here's the one thing that I actually think works in their favor, in particular only in the post. James Harden is not a closer, and we have seen time and time again, he tends to buckle and shrink when it's on the line and the pressure is at its absolute apex. He doesn't thrive in that environment. He's got a little bit of that Dwight Howard in him. He had to be benched 2 years ago for Houston's season to be saved. And so I think the one thing that I think is actually in favor for the Rockets is that Chris Paul joining them, he doesn't shrink. And he doesn't shrink away from that spotlight. And I think in that moment when it's all on the line and Harden just can't handle the pressure, Chris Paul's going to be there to handle it, and I think that's probably the best thing that happens. Like you're talking about that, who gets the ball. Harden doesn't want the ball in that moment. He wants the ball when it's all easy going, easy pie, no problem, smooth sailing. He's your dude. But then the second it's crunch time, it's game 7, 2 minutes left, Harden is nowhere to be found every single time. Nowhere to be found. And I think Chris Paul is probably the best weapon to have at that moment because he will not shrink from the moment, and I will give him that one thing. I think that's the one thing that works in their favor. Do I think having Chris Paul still does it make them better than the Warriors? No, not at all. No, it still isn't enough. But at least they have a closer now.
Yeah, they're a better team. They're a better team for sure, but it's they kind of like stay right where they were last year. They're just like a smidge more efficient with Chris Paul, I think, because Harden can focus on scoring, Chris Paul can focus on scoring and distributing.
So let's go to OKC. Let's talk about OKC. Jordan, what do you think about Paul George to OKC? Where does that put OKC going forward next year?
I actually love the move. I think it's great. I mean, you end up paying. It might end up being a rental. That's the only thing that you can kind of look at is Paul George could walk next year. But I mean, he's making $19 million a year. Oladipo is making 20. So you're paying $1 million less this year. I think their problem is still the same though. I mean, like you picked up a great. I think you picked up a great two-way player. Defense, obviously, he can score better than Oladipo, so I think that you get a huge boost up front. I just think the same thing. It's like when you saw Russell go sit on the bench, these teams didn't know how to handle. They just dropped off immediately. You saw them get buried when Russell was on the bench. And as much as you can distribute minutes, I still think they lack a ton of depth. Like I couldn't tell you their sixth or seventh man. Can you guys? Like I don't know who's on that team.
Ray, what do you think?
I like the move. I think it's great. I mean, the risk is that Paul George is coming off of an ACL tear, so you don't know what his performance level is going to be coming forward. But I mean, the NBA, unlike football, I feel like ACL.
Paul George.
Paul George is – oh, no, I'm sorry. Not Paul George. I was thinking of Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay was coming off ACL tear, not Paul George. Sorry, mixing up my players.
All good.
Paul George to Oklahoma is great because, it gives them a bump in offense and defense, and OKC needs that if they want to keep pace. But he's not necessarily going to be the game changer that Oklahoma City needs in order to advance to – they might be able to get to second round with him now, especially if they play someone like the Clips who suck or the Pacers. But it's obviously not enough to beat the Warriors, because Paul George is a role player. He's not like the guy that takes you to the next level. Westbrook is that guy, but he doesn't defend very well and he turns over the ball. He's exactly like James Harden, only a little less. He has less scoring volume.
So here's the question: going back. Let's circle all the way back to the beginning, and let's talk about the one team we haven't talked about yet, which is the Boston Celtics. They haven't closed anybody. So what's the deal? If I'm a Celtics fan, I would be so pissed. I actually snuck onto Bill Simmons' Twitter account, and I looked at it, and he tweeted earlier today, I believe is when he tweeted. He said that his father was so mad and that he wanted Danny Ainge run out of town. He was just so angry. I mean, is it now? Is it too early to say that they can't close on any of these trades and free agents? Like that's where their issue is now? I mean, obviously they've done great draft moves, but is it I think it's safe to say now that they just can't close anything. I mean, Oladipo was traded. So what the Celtics don't have anyone on the Oladipo level? What do you guys think? Ray, we'll start with you.
I don't think the Celtics doesn't seem like the Celtics going to make any. The Celtics really could have used a guy like Paul George, I feel, and they kind of really messed up by not picking him up because I don't really know who's left. I mean, the Warriors are pretty much retaining everybody, and meanwhile, teams in the West seem to be getting better, and some of the teams that were believed to have been good, or were projected to be good that never lived up to it, i.e. the Clippers, are falling off the map and, making room for other teams to come up. So San Antonio's still going to be there, but they're too old. And the new stars are not – well, actually, Kawhi Leonard, he's a superstar. That guy can take over a game. That was evident in the game where he got injured, and that led to us sweeping them. But and for the Celtics and the East overall, I just don't see a whole lot happening over there that's making things all that more difficult for LeBron James.
Jordan, your thoughts? What do you think? Do you agree? Is it time to say that those guys cannot close the front office over there?
Yeah, I think I do think that it may be time to say that. I mean, they missed out, for the last couple of years. There was talk of Carmelo. There was talk of Blake. I mean, obviously they got Horford, couldn't get Durant. So, I mean, I think that there's like a good reason to believe that Ainge has a problem doing that. And to me, what it looks like from the outside is like, what's your plan? Like, what are you doing? Like, obviously it was rebuild, get assets, but the time has kind of come. You've competed the last 2 years pretty well in the East. Obviously this last year going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's a little bit like, well, what's your deal? Like, what's your plan? Are you still planning for the future, or why are you not? Like, are you just waiting for LeBron to drop off? Like, I would love to see a little bit more. And obviously, Danny Ainge is probably playing some of this stuff close to the vest. So, but it's like, just what is it that you want? Because you got so many young kids. You passed up on Markelle Fultz so that you could keep, Isaiah Thomas, who's 28, 29. Why are we trying to seize the moment now? Or are we still playing for 3 years from now? Because you got a bunch of free agents coming up in the next couple of years between Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart. You got people who are coming off the books who are going to be paid a lot of money. So it's a little confusing to figure out. It feels like they're planning for 2 to 3 years from now, as opposed to, when LeBron's 34, 35, as opposed to like, let's try to make a run at it now, like Daryl Morey and the Rockets or Presti and the OKC. It feels a little like, well, we're going to wait 2-3 years and make our fans suffer a little bit until then.
I agree. And I love it because I hate the Boston Celtics. So it's great. It's great to see.
But don't you want LeBron to be challenged?
I do want I so want LeBron to be challenged. See, that's the twofold, right? Like, that's the part that's easily the most frustrating, is that there's no one to challenge LeBron in the East. That's the part that sucks, right? That there's just no one there.
It annoys me. It annoys me because I'm tired of seeing LeBron go in the East. I mean, and part of it, first of all, it's really impressive. There's no denying it. That's very impressive on how many finals he's gone to in a row. And for some reason, the guy just cannot get injured. He's like superhuman. But at the same time, I have to put an asterisk by a lot of those appearances just because there's no competition. He has a very easy road. He's much like the Patriots.
Yeah, he has a very easy road. I mean, think about it. He really has had no challengers the entire time that he's been in the East. The closest was, I would say, the Pacers, sort of, when they were at their apex when he was with the Heat, and then a little bit of the Boston Celtics the first couple years when he was with the Heat. But other than that, there really hasn't been much.
The Celtics really had an opportunity this offseason to bulk up because I felt like they were the one team that could give them a challenge, and they just haven't done anything. So it's disappointing.
I think if they land Gordon Hayward, I think they become a really great regular season team like they always have been. Mm-hmm. But Gordon Hayward, and we saw it in the finals with Kevin Durant, like Kevin Durant was the perfect foil to LeBron. LeBron had to guard him. Kevin was great at guarding LeBron. And it's like, unless you find some sort of person like that, which is why I agree with you, Ray, that like Paul George would have been perfect, because Paul George in that Pacers series, even though they got swept, he went after him a little bit. Or even Jimmy Butler. Like, these are two guys that don't shrink from that. I just don't know if Gordon Hayward's really going to like go chest to chest with LeBron and even come close to winning. So I don't know. I'm with you. I think they really missed out on players that could have been more effective to challenging LeBron in the East. But it's frustrating because like Paul George is going to beat up KD for a couple games this year. Chris Paul and the are going to be harder against. I'm not saying like woe is me to the Warriors, because obviously we have Kevin Durant and we can be $40 million in the luxury tax. But it's like it's frustrating to be like, all right, well let's lay out the red carpet for LeBron again to the finals, and it somehow got way easier. Like, it got easier.
Mm-hmm. It did. It actually got easier. So I guess this begs the question at this point: Are we back to Warriors Cavs 4? And how boring does that sound? I think that sounds so boring. I want to see the Warriors back. I just don't want to see Warriors Cavs 4.
Yeah, we've already won the rubber match, so I'd rather just see a new challenger and then just beat the crap out of them.
No, no. I like it. I like Warriors 4 because, and I'm saying this because I'm named after Michael Jordan, and he's the greatest, and he will always be the greatest. And LeBron, if you're listening, you'll never be better than Michael Jordan. But
You got to win 6. You got to win 6 to do it, and you can't lose. And he's already lost 5.
yes, that's what I'm saying. Is let's go back. Let's run it back. That's fine. Run it back with 4 years in a row, and then LeBron will get his butt kicked, and KD will have 2 championships in a row. And we can all put the whole conversation aside that LeBron will never be as good as Michael. So you know what? I hear what you boys are saying. It's boring, but I'm saying run it back just so we can put LeBron's legacy safely in the number 2 or number 3 spot as greatest of all time, and Michael can stay on top.
Jordan, that might be the greatest thing you've ever said on the GoldCast. Right there. That might be the greatest thing you've ever said.
And you've only been on one episode. So that's
on one episode.
impressive.
But you know what? That is very for all of our 49er Goldcast. We had many talks leading up to Brady winning his 5th about Joe Montana versus Brady, and I'm with you. If he loses the amount of finals that Michael Jordan has won, it is impossible. It is impossible to say that he is better or at the same level. He can't lose the amount of finals that Michael Jordan has won, and I'm with you. Let's make sure he loses the amount of finals that Michael Jordan has won.
Yeah, that's a pretty sweet goal.
Yeah, you can't argue that, right, Ray? That's pretty good.
No, it is good.
Awesome. Well, we're going to move on to some San Francisco Giants stuff. Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show. Don't be a stranger. You definitely have to come back soon.
Of course.
Yes,
Thank you guys.
sure.
That was really fun.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon, bud. Thank you.
See ya.
Yeah.
Okay, Ray, so at the beginning of this week, we were going to talk Giants, and we were going to talk about how horrific they were, and we still need to talk about that. But then, of course, now here we are a week later, and the Giants swept the Rockies and have now won 6 in a row. So let's talk about where we are right now with the Giants and just in general, their general suckiness, and then this microcosm of success. What do you have to say about all of that?
Well, this first half of the season has been super frustrating because I'm not going to believe. I know baseball players are really superstitious. I don't believe in any of that crap. I do think it's a very rhythmic game. It's a very long game, and I know it's very grueling. And I know that because of the length, baseball players are superstitious because it's so long and slow that it's very easy for players to sort of get in their own heads and to, perpetuate, losing streaks as well as winning streaks and all that kind of stuff. So I understand that there's a psychological element to baseball that's unique to baseball, unlike basketball and football, which are much more fast-paced, although basketball is a pretty long season too. But I think the pace of basketball allows for less of that psychological sort of disruption because of its pace, whereas baseball doesn't. So, but the Giants, I just don't understand why they've been playing so bad, and I've been trying to figure out what the problem is because in my opinion, there's no excuse. Everybody's healthy. There was some minor DL stuff in the beginning of the year but it was like little stuff like guys on 7-day, guys on 3-day, guys on 10-day, nothing that was like really substantial until Bumgarner stupidly got into a motorcycle accident. But when you think about it, it's like you have a bunch of all-stars, multiple all-stars on this team that are all still in their prime age of athletic performance, and it'd be a different story if they were all old. But because the fact that they're all young, I'm just like, okay, these guys are all in their prime. So why is everyone playing like crap? Like, what's the reason that the whole team has just been like shit all year? And we brought up some of the young guys from our farm leagues, and they've done okay. None of them have really kind of stood out, and we kind of, but we have, I think Denard Span is not a true leadoff. That hurts us because you want a guy who has a really high average, and Denard Span is just not that guy. He's old and he's good. He's like I would put him in the latter half of the lineup, not in leadoff, in my opinion. But I just don't get it. The games are really frustrating to watch because the Giants sort of self-inflict their self-inflicted wounds where the bullpen plays terribly. We paid a bunch of money for an all-star closer. He hasn't been all that great. And there was, rumors talking about how he wasn't getting along in the clubhouse. I don't know how much truth there is to that, because we don't know for sure. We'll never know because we're not in the clubhouse. But I don't know. So a part of me wants to start to point the finger, because you're like, who do you point the finger to? You have that when you have that much talent in terms of pitching, in terms of your infield, in terms of your bats. When you have that much talent and you're still losing and you're in last place in the league, I think the only place left to look at is management. So this team is not being managed good enough, because if you have this much talent and you're in last place, there's no excuse, especially if when they're all young. They're all young. Most of them are young. So there's no excuse for it other than just bad management. So I don't know. But
so
they have once. Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's talk about that, because as the GoldCast knows, I live in Los Angeles and I love Los Angeles, but I hate the Dodgers. I absolutely hate the Dodgers. And of course, when you live in Los Angeles and you're a San Francisco Giants fan, you're a San Francisco native, you got to hear a lot of crap from Dodger fans. And of course, the thing they love throwing at me this year, going, "Hey man, might be time to blow it up. Might be time to get rid of Bochy. Might be time to get rid of Bochy." And I've been like, "Screw you. We're never getting rid of Bochy. He's won us. He gave us a dynasty. He's at least earned at least a couple more years." So, Raymond, hearing you say that, a diehard Giants fan, the greatest fanalist I know on the planet, Raymond Solis the First from the GoldCast, the greatest fanalist I know, is it possible? Is Bochy losing his grip? I mean, you know how upset I was in the playoffs. Game 4 against Chicago, we pulled the rook out in the 9th inning. You leave that kid in. You let him finish the game. If we finish that game, we go to Game 5, and we beat the Cubs. I don't care what the Cubs say. I'm glad Jordan's already gone, so he doesn't hear this. I don't want to hear an argument from him. But if we go to Game 5, and you've got Cueto starting, Bumgarner as possible relief, we win Game 5. And if we win Game 5, I'm telling you right now, the entire MLB lays down and dies, and we win the World Series again. I'm stepping off my soapbox. But still, that's where I'm at. That's how I feel. And I really thought when Boch made the pitching change in the 9th, I thought it was the dumbest. 3 more outs. Give him at least the first out and see what happens. But we had was it 32 blown saves last year? 32, right?
33.
Right? 33. And how did we lose? How
33 between 10 different pitchers.
And how do we do it? We blew the save. Once again, our relief could not be trusted. So Bochy, with the game on the line, 3 outs left, our kid is killing it. Why would you pull him out of the game? God, I'm still so mad about this. Can you tell? I'm still so angry about that. But so why do you pull him? Okay, so now let's fast forward to now, because I love me some Bruce Bochy, and I'll be the first guy on the GoldCast to defend Bruce Bochy. This is not a bash Bruce Bochy hot take. I'm not going into that road, but I'm asking you, Raymond. All right, so let's go back to this.
Well, wait. Let me ask you, because I went off on what my thoughts of the season was. Well, how's it been for you? What's the season been like for you, and who do you point the finger to?
See, man, that's a tough question. I'm kind of at a loss for words. You know why? Because everything that you're saying it, and a lot of other people are saying it, and maybe as I'm sitting here on the GoldCast self-analyzing myself, maybe it comes down to the fact that maybe I'm just not ready to say that it's Bruce Bochy's fault, and maybe I'm being a Giants. Like when I go, you guys are being faithful when we talk about Brian Hoyer or something, quarterback in the 49ers next year. Maybe I'm being blind to the fact that maybe Boch has lost a little bit of his grip on this team, and maybe I'm just not seeing it, because I'm kind of at a loss for words. And you're right. When you lay everything out and when you look at everything that the season has, as it has, kind of the one thing you're left with is Bruce Bochy and the management, his coaching staff and the management of this team. And maybe I'm just not, maybe that is it. It is, you said it. We have a bunch of all-stars that are in their primes, that have been coming off very successful seasons, and for some reason there is a big disconnect. Now, they won 6 in a row, and there's still a lot of baseball left. We're not even at the all-star break, so who knows? You can never say never in baseball. There's a lot of baseball left, and there's a lot of games, and things can change dramatically very quickly. Colorado Rockies lost like 8 in a row, so so there it is. So things can change quickly in baseball, and baseball is a very streaky sport with a lot of emotion. Such a weird sport. So yeah, I guess the long and short of it is I don't really have an explanation, but it feels like the reason I don't have an explanation is because if I actually looked at it, maybe it's the coaching staff. What do you think?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, think about this. Bochy's health has not been good. He's had health issues, so he's not. He's getting to. He's in the twilight of his coaching career. I just don't know if he's that. If he can just last the way he's. I don't know if he's in it the way he used to be because he's just not healthy. So he's not 100%. He's not the same coach he was, when he first took us there in 2010. He's not. That's just a fact. And I think health is part of it, part of the concern. And because it's a long season, and I know that Boch puts in a lot of time and effort. He's arguably the best manager of this decade. So I'm not trying to take away anything from what he's accomplished with this team, but at the same time, he is, nearing the end of his run with this team, and that might be one of the reasons why we're seeing, we're not seeing this team gel, although they have gelled as of late, but we don't know how long that gelling is going to last. You know what I mean? You at this point in the season, if you don't have a winning record, first of all, if you're like the Dodgers, I don't know if the Dodgers are going to maintain this level like this. They're 33-11 at home. They're 22-18 on the road. They have winning records on the road and at home. I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that into the playoffs and make a run. Because baseball, you want to finish strong in the second half. You don't want to dominate in the first half because it's such a long season that there's a good chance that you're going to tank out in the latter half of the season. I've seen it happen time and time again. I've seen it happen to the A's. I've seen it happen to the Giants. I've seen it happen to other teams as well. So I just don't know. But and we see that already. Colorado's tanking. I don't know how long they're going to tank, and the Giants seem to be surging, but the Giants are 33-51, so we have a long road to get to. I mean, Jordan should feel good about his Cubs, even though he said the season sucks. They're 41-41. They're right where they need to be at the All-Star break. So you want to be that team because now's the time to turn it up because August and September are the months that matter for baseball the most. But in terms of the Giants, I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It could, you're right. It is streaky. So this could be the beginning of something of them kind of figuring themselves out and putting it all together. But we'll just have to wait and see. We know Cueto is going to opt out of his contract at the end of the year. So
sucks,
part of that
which totally sucks. He's such a beast. You put Cueto on any of the Giants teams between 2010 and 2014. We probably have a fourth chip just on him alone.
Mm-hmm. So we know that we're going to lose a big ace at the end of the year, and part of it's probably because we're not doing good. If we were doing better, he'd probably have more incentive to stay.
I think that's exactly why he's leaving. I think that's in fact, him already stating before the midway of the season that he wants to opt out of his contract, that already hitting the Bleacher Report and all the sheets. Mm-hmm. To me, it speaks of. It's saying without saying that there is some dysfunction on that team, and Cueto doesn't even want to be a part of it. He is already saying he's going to opt out before the middle of the season, Ray. What does that say? What does that say about where the Giants are? So what's happening in that clubhouse? What is happening? What's going on?
There's trouble in paradise.
Trouble in paradise. And the idea, I have to admit, now I'm going to get sports fan on you. The idea of Bochy losing his grip, the idea that Bochy is losing his touch, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, it does suck to see, but all good things must come to an end. Even the things that we like the most. So
even coaches lose their grip, just like athletes.
But here's the thing: the thing is that these guys are still in their prime. So whoever takes over is going to be taking over a winning team. Like the same thing like when Steve Kerr took over for Mark Jackson. He took over a playoff team. You know what I mean? So whoever comes in is going to be taking over for a playoff contending team. Okay, this is a team that's expected to be in there. We are the Yankees of the West.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that then. End of the year. Let's say the Giants don't even get to the playoffs, right? Because that's a likelihood given how far back we are, right? One of the worst teams in the MLB right now. Giants don't make the playoffs. Does Bochy get cut loose?
I doubt it, but I think it should be on the table. We are the second worst team in all of baseball, next to the Philadelphia Phillies.
Well, it is possible that Bochy steps down. That's possible. Do you agree?
Yeah, I could see him doing something like that.
He's 1-3. He's a 1,000% shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. There's no question. Like you said, arguably, easily the greatest manager of this decade. I say arguably out of in an attempt to feign humility, when in reality there it isn't even arguably. He has a dynasty. He had the Misfits in 2010, and then he had almost the same exact crew for 2012 and 2014. Greatest performance by a pitcher ever. 7-game series against the Royals. Madison Bumgarner. You cannot question it. And the moves he made during that entire series, which was easily our toughest World Series win to date. The moves he made were masterful. He was just he was like Bobby Fischer on a chessboard.
Right.
So I guess all of that is for me to just say he has nothing to prove at this point. He has nothing to prove. If he left now, in my opinion, he would still be leaving on top, not even on the bottom. He'd be leaving on top with a dynasty.
Yeah, he'd still be leaving on a high note, but he just time to hang up the glove. Well, just doesn't seem to be able to get it done with all that talent.
As well as I do, athletes rarely tell a sport when they're done. Sports most of the time tell athletes that they're done.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go the other way around. Well, we'll see. Maybe this is the final days of Bruce Bochy. I don't like thinking about it. It really bugs me. I think that he, it's just a fan in me. It's just a fan in me. We are, Raymond, today is Sunday, July 2nd. We are 4 weeks out from football. I cannot wait to start talking about football. I'm going to save it, but how excited are you? Very quickly, so we got to go. How excited are you for this season for the 49ers?
Very excited because Mike Shanahan and John Lynch are the most intriguing.
Kyle
Shanahan and John Lynch are the most intriguing, GM coaching pair that's in the NFL right now. And I'm not saying it just because I'm a fan. I'm saying it because it's a very unique situation that happened where, we were a team that not only needed a coach, but also needed a GM. And we seem to have knocked it out of the park thus far. And now it's time to kind of see how it all comes together.
And come together it shall, especially once we get rid of Brian Hoyer. But that's a conversation for later on this month. Raymond, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ray Solis, as well as Instagram at Ray Solis1.
Boom. You can find me at Rudy Solis 3rd, Rudy Solis 3RD, Instagram, Twitter. Follow me. I'll follow you back. Let's keep the conversation going. GoldCast Nation, we're in the lull of the season, of the sports calendar, but that's okay. We're still here to talk the biggest, the best, the brightest. Here we go. San Francisco, Bay Area, 7 championship appearances, 5 rings, 1 in every sport. It is great to be a San Francisco sports fan. You're listening because you like the biased opinion of the GoldCast. Here we go. We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel. Boom!
This is the GoldCast.